Every action you take, every decision you make, every version of yourself that you become is shaped not in moments of grand intention, but in patterns that repeat quietly beneath your awareness. These patterns are your habits. And whether you realize it or not, they are running your life. Your brain is designed for efficiency. It does not want to think more than it needs to. Thinking is metabolically expensive. So instead of evaluating every situation from scratch, your brain builds circuits, automatic pathways that allow you to perform behaviors without conscious effort. This is not a flaw. This is a survival mechanism. But the same mechanism that allows you to brush your teeth without thinking also locks you into behaviors that can either elevate you or slowly destroy your potential. When a habit forms, it is not just a psychological pattern, it is a physical rewiring of your nervous system. Neurons that fire together begin to wire together. Over time, these connections become faster, stronger, and more dominant. What once required effort becomes automatic, and what becomes automatic becomes your default identity. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems, and your habits are the architecture of those systems. Most people believe they are in control of their lives because they can make decisions, but what they fail to see is that the majority of their decisions are not decisions at all. They are reactions, triggered responses, programs that have been running for years, sometimes decades, reinforced through repetition and emotional feedback. You wake up and reach for your phone without thinking. You delay important work without understanding why. You default to comfort instead of growth. These are not random behaviors. These are conditioned responses shaped by dopamine, reward prediction, and neural reinforcement. Dopamine is not just about pleasure, it is about anticipation. It is about motivation. It is the signal that tells your brain, this behavior is worth repeating. And every time you engage in a habit, whether it's productive or destructive, you are training your dopamine system to assign value to that behavior. If you constantly seek quick rewards, scrolling, junk food, distraction, you lower your baseline for effort. You train your brain to expect high stimulation with minimal work. Over time, anything that requires sustained focus begins to feel painful. Not because it is inherently painful, but because your brain has been conditioned to avoid it. This is how habits begin to control you, not through force, but through subtle shifts in what your brain perceives as rewarding. Your brain is always asking one question: what should I do next? And the answer is almost always determined by what you have done before. This is why change feels so difficult. You are not just trying to adopt a new behavior. You are trying to compete against an established neural pathway that has been reinforced thousands of times. The old habit is faster. It is more efficient. It requires less energy, so your brain defaults to it. But here is the critical insight. Habits are not permanent. They are plastic. The brain is plastic. Neuroplasticity allows you to reshape these circuits, but it requires repetition, consistency, and friction. You cannot eliminate a habit. You can only replace it. Every habit follows a loop: cue, behavior, reward. A trigger initiates a behavior, and that behavior leads to a reward that reinforces the loop. If you want to change a habit, you must intervene in this loop. You can change the cue, you can change the behavior, or you can change the reward. But most people fail because they rely on willpower alone, and willpower is unreliable. It fluctuates based on sleep, stress, nutrition, and emotional state. If your strategy depends on willpower, it will eventually collapse. Instead, you must design your environment. Your environment is stronger than your intentions. If your phone is next to your bed, you will check it. If junk food is in your house, you will eat it. If distractions are within reach, they will win. Remove friction for the habits you want. Add friction for the habits you don't. Make the good habits easy. Make the bad habits hard. This is not about discipline. This is about design. When you reduce the effort required to start a behavior, you increase the likelihood that it will happen. And once it starts, momentum takes over. The hardest part is not doing the habit. It is starting it. This is why small habits matter. When you perform a behavior consistently, even at a small scale, you begin to shift your identity. You begin to see yourself differently. You are not someone who works out occasionally. You are someone who trains. You are not someone who tries to focus. You are someone who protects your attention. Identity is built through evidence, and habits are the mechanism that generates that evidence. But there is another layer to this. Your habits are not just shaping your behavior, they are shaping your perception of reality. If you are constantly consuming information, you lose the ability to think deeply. If you are constantly distracted, you lose the ability to focus. If you are constantly avoiding discomfort, you lose the ability to grow. Your brain adapts to whatever environment you place it in. It optimizes for the conditions you expose it to. If your environment is chaotic, your mind becomes chaotic. If your environment is focused, your mind becomes focused. This is why controlling your habits is not optional. It is essential, because if you don't control your habits, they will control you, and they will do so quietly, gradually, without resistance. You won't notice it in a single day. But over months and years, the trajectory becomes undeniable. The person you become is the sum of repeated actions. So the question is not whether habits control you. They do. The question is whether you are consciously choosing which habits take control. Awareness is the first step. You must observe your behaviors without judgment. Notice the triggers. Notice the patterns. Notice what you do when you are bored, stressed, tired, or overwhelmed. These are the moments where habits reveal themselves. Because habits are not built in moments of strength. They are revealed in moments of weakness. And if you want to change your life, you must intervene in those moments. You must create alternative responses. When the urge arises, you do something different, not something extreme, something small, something manageable, because consistency beats intensity. A habit performed daily, even at low intensity, will reshape your brain more effectively than sporadic bursts of effort. Repetition is the signal that drives plasticity. Every time you choose a new behavior, you are sending a signal to your brain, this matters, and over time, that signal becomes stronger. The new pathway begins to compete with the old one. Eventually, it becomes dominant. But this process takes time, and most people quit before the shift occurs. They expect immediate results. They expect motivation to carry them. But motivation is not the driver. Structure is the driver. Systems are the driver. And habits are the foundation of those systems. You must become someone who acts regardless of how you feel, because feelings are transient. Habits are stable. And when your habits align with your goals, progress becomes inevitable. Not because you are forcing it, but because it is built into your daily behavior. This is how you take control back, not through massive change, but through consistent, deliberate action. You build one habit, then another, and over time, these habits begin to compound. They begin to reinforce each other. They begin to create a new baseline, a new identity, a new trajectory, and at that point, something powerful happens. The behaviors that once felt difficult become automatic. The resistance fades, the effort decreases, and you begin to operate at a level that once felt out of reach. This is the power of habits. They can either trap you in a cycle of stagnation or elevate you into a state of continuous growth. But they will not remain neutral. They are always shaping you. Every action is a vote for the person you are becoming, and those votes accumulate. So if you want to change your life, stop focusing on outcomes. Focus on behaviors. Focus on what you do every day, because that is what your brain is recording. That is what your nervous system is reinforcing. That is what determines your future. Your habits are always working. The only question is whether they are working for you or against you. And that decision is being made right now in the smallest actions you take, repeated over time, shaping who you are, what you do, and what you become.